Rachna. And good morning to all of viewers who are watching us. Thank you for giving us your patronage through the night as we cover through possibly one of the most historic nights that India has seen in its independent history at this point. Operation Sindoor is well and truly underway. Many believe it is stage 3 of what has been a landmark operation, and an operation that continues to make Pakistan pay for decades and decades of sponsoring terror. In the latest, what we can tell you is that India has struck back, and struck back hard at several parts across Pakistan through air, water and through land. And that is the big story that we will be tracking. I'm being joined by my guests who are also going to be with me through the night as we bring you updated we'll get you all the latest developments coming in. But this is what the situation is at this point. The Navy has begun its firing exercises. The big speculation was over when the Indian Navy would join and when the Indian Navy would take part in an operation that's so far been dominated by the air defense systems, which is controlled by the Indian Air Force and of course the Indian Army. But now we understand that the Indian Navy is also in action mode. It has begun firing exercises as well. In fact, as our senior colleague Srinjoy was also saying, that sections of the Eastern Command has also gone, there's elements of the Eastern Naval Fleet have also moved to the west in the Arabian Sea. The Navy is continuing its deterrent posture, and all major combat platforms are in position in the North Arabian Sea. All three services are working together cohesively, and Pakistan's naval elements are being kept a watch on at this point. It is an unprecedented escalation by Pakistan despite the provocative response, despite India's measured, refrained and sensible response to what happened on the 22nd of April in Pahalgam. Pakistan has decided to provoke yet again. In a dastardly offensive, Pakistan tried to strike Indian civilian and military infrastructure. The first information came from Jammu at around 8:30 p.m. last evening, where at least 8 missiles were fired towards the border areas. They were all intercepted. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It is important to note that all these missiles, when they were fired towards Jammu, were intercepted. None of them were able to hit any target and cause any sort of damage, whether to human life or to property. The visuals that emerged led to immediate comparisons with tactics deployed of the Palestinian terror group, the Hamas. It is a terror group, it is a modus operandi indeed very similar to the Palestinian terror outfit, where cheap and plentiful rockets were fired indiscriminately without any serious intent to reach a target. India's reaction was also a visual reminder of that of Israel. And someone who understands these parallels very closely is my colleague Pradeep, who's joining us live at this point. Pradeep, take us through why many people believe that the tactics used by Pakistan this evening and this night have been very similar to those used by the Hamas before, of course, the October 7th offensive by counter-offensive in 2023 by Israel.
Yes, in fact, the people are right when they compare it with Hamas, because I had been there twice when there was a war with the Hamas, as well as when we saw that even the Lebanon, the war was going on. We saw that how Hamas had been firing rockets. You rightly said they never ever wanted them to reach any particular target. They used to fire rockets, and we have seen that how Iron Dome was able to demolish and decimate. And the same thing today also happened when the several rockets and the projectiles were fired from Pakistan side. One could see that streak of light moving towards the Jammu region. But then air defense system was strong enough to detect, neutralize all of them and decimate and demolish those projectiles coming towards the Jammu region. But one thing was clear, that the way they were coming, it appeared that maybe somewhere the target was airbase, because they were trying to target air bases, whether it was in Jammu region, whether it was in Udhampur region, whether it was in Punjab region, whether it was in Rajasthan, or whether it was any other region. Most of the time we have seen that they are firing these projectiles, these missiles, to target air bases. They are trying to target army installation, because most of these rockets were somewhere coming from that particular direction only. But air defense system was strong enough to thwart their nefarious and sinister plot, and they were able to decimate and demolish all those rockets coming out to this side. This is not first time that they have tried to target Jammu region. We have seen that within 24 hours, this was the second time when they tried to target Jammu region. Because earlier also we saw that there were 15 cities were on radar of Pakistan. They tried to target them, but every time their sinister plot was foiled by the air system. S-400 has been very effective so far. But what is really important is that so far during the last 24 hours, Pakistan has made several attempts to target defense installation, try to target civilian areas, even try to target air bases, but they haven't succeeded in their mission because Indian air defense system has been good enough to thwart any of their designs. But what is more important is that immediately after that there was a blackout in Jammu, there was a little bit of panic also, but we saw that India was able to retaliate and hit back Pakistan. They started targeting many of their cities. Their attack was carried out in Sialkot, that is just a few kilometers away from the Jammu region. Then the attack was there in the Faisalabad, attack was in Karachi, attack was in Islamabad, and even the blasts were heard in Peshawar. So they tried to target different cities. And right now what we have been told is that Indian Navy also is trying to move towards the Arabian Sea. They are trying to ensure that Pakistan is not able to maneuver in that area so that they can further build pressure on Pakistan, and that's what actually Indian Navy is doing. But what is more important is that on one hand...
Pradeep, do stay on with us because this action is going to happen, this provocation is happening through the night. We've got more details coming in of Pakistan's absolute unprovoked border aggression because we can confirm that there is massive artillery firing at the Pooch sector. The city and border villages have come under huge attack by Pakistan. Indian Army, as usual, of course, is responding with brute force and giving a befitting reply to the ceasefire violation. Quickly, let me go across to my colleague Tejshri, who's joining us live at this point. Tejshri has been reporting, of course, from Pooch from the beginning of this entire episode. Tejshri, I hope you're keeping safe. I can see that you have not lit up your frame for security reasons. Can you take us through what's happening right now?
Well, let me tell you that we are reporting just few kilometers away from the airport, and in fact behind me, in fact we will just try to show you the visuals that here there is a complete blackout once again. There were some, in fact, there were some areas where there was electricity, but now there is a complete power cut away. Not just that, but we are also hearing sirens over here. Now, in fact, there were sirens in this particular area, and the same sirens were also heard, just 2 to 3 hours back when there was a targeted attack by Pakistan. You can also hear, if I just, you can also hear the silence. If I just, do not speak for 30 seconds, you can hear the sirens as well. The sirens are running, the sound of the sirens can be heard behind me, and in fact, this is an alert that there is a possibility that another attack could have happened over here in Jammu from where we are reporting right now. And in fact, remember that earlier also there was an attempt of the attack in Jammu at the airport as well. Not just the airport, but in fact at several places. They also tried to attack via the missiles, but the missiles were all intercepted. But here, in fact, what we are getting to know is that this complete area is again blackout, and in fact, not just that, but the sirens could also be heard. The people have been advised to stay in their stay at their house itself. And again the sirens are near the loud sounds of siren over here in Jammu. Remember that our Jammu has again become a sensitive area, a sensitive zone, because the tensions are definitely escalating. However, there is no casualty, no, in fact, any kind of damage is being reported. Not a single person is injured over here. But yes, the kind of attack that Pakistan has been making, India is continuously retaliating and failing each and every attempt that has been made by Pakistan over here in Jammu and other places as well. And if we talk about ceasefire violation, then yes, there has been ceasefire violation from the side of Pakistan. There has been continuous firing in Poonch, in Kupwara, and in Uri as well, and Rajouri also. What we got to know that yes, there was some shelling and cross-border firing in Rajouri. So that's an unprovoked attack again.
All right, Tejshri,
by the side of
Tejshri, we'll keep coming to you, and yes, we could hear the sounds of the shelling and firing and the sirens in the background as well. So stay safe, and thank you for getting us the report from ground zero. Meanwhile, as we have been telling our viewers, India has continued to strike back with furious venom, and it continues to strike Muzaffarabad. You can now listen to this audio of this clip that we have received that shows how heavy shelling is taking place in Muzaffarabad. Let's listen in. indication as to how fierce and how powerful the Indian counter-strike has been. Let me go across to my guests who are joining me. Very grateful to them to join us at this late hour, but I don't think anyone is sleeping in the subcontinent tonight. I have Colonel Anil Bhatt, defense expert. I'm also being joined by PK Mishra, ex-additional DG of the BSF. And I'm also being joined by Burzeen Wangmar from the School of Oriental and Asian and African Studies, which is known as SOAS, the South Asia Institute, all the way from London. Thank you so much for joining me. Let me first start with Colonel Anil Bhatt. Colonel Bhatt, what do you make of all that's happened here? It started around 8:30 p.m. when we got to know information about Jammu being attacked, and then it became pretty much an offensive by Pakistan across the entire western and northern front of India. But so far, what is incredible is that there has been little to no damage both to property or casualties, whereas India seems to have struck back. Going by these visuals and the sound of the damage that has been caused in Muzaffarabad, India has already dealt Pakistan with a very, very heavy price.
We should not be playing, apne muh miyan mittu bano, but I think the Indian Armed Forces have proved that they are brilliant, because the way we have countered a whole lot of mostly drone, but aircraft. I mean, it's one doesn't know who is in charge in Pakistan, because that self-proclaimed Hafiz General Munir, he's packed his it is believed that he's packed his family off, and so have a number of other generals. And who is in charge? It's supposed to be him. Or Mr. Shehbaz Sharif. Anyway, the fact remains that Pakistan is like the proverbial kutte ki dum. We started by merely going for terror, and we effectively destroyed 9 terror camp locations. We did, you can say, Balakot multiplied by 9 in one night, 25 minutes or so.
Indeed.
And we didn't touch any other assets on this. But then they started off, and at every step we have only responded with a little more, not much.
Yes, and we have only responded in India, Colonel, but India has made it very clear that that both phase 1 and phase 2 of Operation Sindoor were not meant to be escalatory, they were just retaliatory. In neither of these two phases did we ever target civilian infrastructure or even military infrastructure so far. It was just aimed at A, eliminating terror infrastructures and terror hubs, and B, as a deterrent after what Pakistan tried to do last night. But it seems evidently Pakistan has wanted to ramp it up a bit further. Let me bring in Burzeen Wangmar at this point. Burzeen, on a personal note, it's good, as a SOAS alum, it's good to have you joining us all the way live from London. My question is, as Colonel Bhatt was telling us, who exactly is in charge of Pakistan? And does that complicate matters even further for us, given the fact that from all indications, all confirmed, General Munir is now no longer in charge of the Pakistan Army and is no longer in charge of the entire offensive operation of Pakistan?
No, I wouldn't quite put it so strongly. It is a rhetorical question everyone in the world asks, including Western capitals: who's in charge and who do we talk to in Pakistan? But for all purposes and intents, it is GHQ Rawalpindi that one talks to, and they are the ones who call the shots. And you can be sure of it that when it comes to India, it is not the Pakistan Foreign Office, which is but a front for GHQ Pindi, who again calls the shots. So that's an immediate response straight up front to that. What I would like to come in as a historian is on this aspect. We are seeing a point of no return from the Indian Republic. And should I put it in the plural, 2 points of no return which were overdue, with the December 2001 Parliament attack and Bombay 26/11 November 2008. The latter was far more audacious and outrageous in an atrocity, and precious little was undertaken back then, because if you recollect, Indian Chief of Army Staff General Kapoor said we were not prepared to take on as a retaliatory strike against Pakistan for Kasab and Company. Much water has flowed under the bridge since 2008, but also since that standoff with Pakistan of Operation Parakram in 2002, which is what we are seeing now live on air as I speak in the early hours of the morning in South Asia, namely forced projection. I repeat, what the Indian military has totted up in the last 2 decades, post-Kargil and post-Operation Parakram October 2002, is the forced projection doctrine, which necessitates that it is absolutely imperative to achieve rapid results, and to do so by impairing Pakistan's strategy of compellence.
Indeed. PK Mishra, it's always very difficult to predict and try and understand what Pakistan thinks. A lot of people believe that Pakistan does not really think, it just goes with, it just behaves erratically, and which is why it becomes and almost like an errant child or a child in a playground who's not in control of his faculties. What exactly is Pakistan's game plan? Because it has been shown for the 3rd night in a row that its ammunitions, its weaponry, its tactics, its provocations have had absolutely zero impact. We have not even used the tip of the iceberg, if we can use, of our military and defense arsenal at our disposal. And we have managed to ensure that the casualties and the damage on our side is minimum, if not zero. What exactly is Pakistan's game plan? Is it just is it literally a last stand by this country?
Yeah, I can well tell you the way General Munir planned. In fact, of course, the Pahalgam planning was definitely made by General Munir through Lashkar-e-Toiba and TRF, and he thought perhaps he can give a shock to India. And practically after that, when we started taking over and we thought that we must destabilization, and we attacked on the 9 terrorist camps. And in fact, now Munir came to know that yes, he has to save his face, because all the 9 camps are gone, and particularly the whole world came to know where we targeted. Not a single civil area we targeted or any military installation in Pakistan. So this attack went in our favor. So as also the Pahalgam attack it went against Pakistan. So the whole world knew that what India has done the real correct thing. Because we, even you see the statement of Vance and Donald Trump also, they clearly stated, yes, India has the right to reply and respond. And we have responded. And our response was correct, to the point. We really did hit all the training camps. And now, just now, the Muzaffarabad action is going on. Just now, Muzaffarabad attack is going on. I know where the attack is going on, because we left another 12 or 15 jihadi camps in Muzaffarabad and killed. That is being powdered now itself, just now. They are being powdered by that. So that is how General Munir then thought, perhaps to save his face, he thought of again attacking us in giving a response. And what response he did in the evening today in Jammu, Pokhran, Pathankot, and Punjab, all these areas, more or less all the airstrips. Even he went on our Vaishno Devi Mata and University. University also rules were set. But everywhere the failure came, because most of S-400 and our air defense system, they were absolutely ready, and all their plans they failed. Now it is we are now taking action. We are responding, and the worst part of it, I know it pretty well by tomorrow what will be there. They are facing problem with BLA. The BLA has already captured a lot of their posts, army posts, opposite side towards Balochistan, that they are losing it, and the BLA is advancing now slowly. And now what is happening at Karachi? After Peshawar, then we are now hitting Sialkot and Karachi at a time, and Muzaffarabad. Now Karachi, our INS Vikrant has already advanced, and the way Karachi is now blocked, from tomorrow, no ship carrying fuel will come to Pakistan, to Karachi port. All fuel supply will be closed. They have to depend upon what happened. The other side of it, that will also be closed, because Karachi port, no ship can come with oil. So I do not know by tomorrow what will be the loss in Muzaffarabad, what will be the loss in Islamabad, what will be the loss in the Lahore, Rawalpindi and Karachi and Sialkot. Things are pretty bad and we are hitting them very bad. So tomorrow morning, let us see what General Munir can again plan. What will be their plan? Because the economy has gone down, and in 2 days, I'm telling you, their economy
well, I can tell you, Mr. Mishra,
will go down tremendous.
Mr. Mishra, it's not tomorrow morning, it's actually today morning, because this is going on well into the night, and in less than 7 hours, we'll have the third joint press conference from the MEA, along with, of course, representatives of the Army and the Air Force, and which will probably give us an indication of how the third phase of Operation Sindoor has looked for so far. But as we count down to that press conference, and as we count down to official statements coming in from the Indian government and the Indian forces, India is definitely hitting Pakistan hard, and this is the update we are getting in from Rajouri, where India has silenced Pakistan with force. Pakistan is continuing to provoke us in the form of border firing, but now we understand there's now heavy shelling that has been reported in Rajouri as well, and this is in keeping in line with Pakistan's cowardly tactics that's been going on for the past 3 nights. There has been heavy ceasefire violation, there has been heavy artillery firing and targeting of civilian areas. We have seen that in Pooch, and we have seen that in Kupwara, and we are now seeing in Rajouri as well. The audio you can hear from obviously these visuals, where there's no, it's darkened because it's a blackout going on. You can hear the heavy shelling that's going on in Rajouri, and India obviously is giving it back to Pakistani provocations. India is fighting force with fire, and giving, as they say in Hindi, a muh tod jawab. So that is the latest update coming to us from Rajouri. Let me go back to my guests at this point, Colonel Anil Bhatt, Burzin Wangmar and PK Mishra. Burzin Wangmar, the term that's often used when it comes to de-escalation, which is the buzzword that's doing the round on social media across to much of the world, which wants a peaceful and a stable South Asia, is an off-ramp, in which case exit route for someone to get down from the highway of escalation. Yeah. So far, the history of the subcontinent has been that Pakistan provokes without any justification. It comes up with some sort of a dastardly terror attack, whether, as you pointed out, whether it was the attack on the Parliament in 2001, whether it was the attack in Mumbai in 2008. And India's response, while it is limited to a deterrent and an immediate response, it has always been incumbent on India to start the process of de-escalation and go through the off-ramp, as the term is called. So far, we have seen a different trend over the last 3 days, where India has shown that it is not going to take the moral high ground, it's not going to take the off-ramp, and it is going to continue to meet fire with fire, continue to come up with effective, powerful deterrents, which are retaliatory but not escalatory in measure, and ensure that the onus of climbing down, or the onus of de-escalation, will have to be on the nation which started it all, which is Pakistan in this case.
India, it does appear, is upping the ante as we speak, and also trying to gain the upper hand, not morally, but tactically and militarily. And in so doing, of course, one can surmise that this is, well, bluntly put, to teach Pakistan a lesson. And the historian in me must bring up with your military officials, Indian military officials, who will realize this, Deepak, that when Mao attacked India in October 62, it was, when all is said and done, and now we look back half a century, it was to humiliate India, not to annex or conquer it. Mao attacked in October, and the Chinese pulled back exactly a month later in November 62. It was to thumb their nose at Nehru in a sense of humiliation, to show that we can start something but also end something at our calling and at our time and of our own volition. So that is what, at least what I see the pattern here with India in this instance, that we can start something and we will end it at our time. So whether Pakistan chooses the off-ramp or not is another point, and it is moot actually even as a question, because for Pakistan, of course, it is existential and to attack India, since the entire credibility of the state lies in offering India a rebuttal. That is what the an army and the two-nation theory, and what, quite frankly, the entire establishment has always stood for. So it's a question of face-saving, which they would not necessarily deploy, which also explains their sense of despair and the reason why bravado is projected by stating that they would unabashedly deploy a full spectrum of deterrence, namely nukes too. They have always committed themselves to it and never been ambivalent about it. The Indian position has been principled of no strike first, and that is known very well. But what is also known concomitantly, again, and I must go back to Operation Parakram in 2002, which must be our departure point for discussion, is that the cold start doctrine, which Indian military planners implemented, that a fight with Pakistan is a fait accompli, and if undertaken, must be done so despite the Damoclean sword of a nuclear umbrella hanging over India. Because you cannot consider yourself a credible state and not undertake any retaliatory action when your civilians are massacred at every as mileage. So the Indian planners have this in line, and we don't know the details, but we do know this much, at least I do as a historian, of the cold start doctrine, that a fight would have to take place under the shadow of the nuclear umbrella, whether one likes it or not.
All right, we're getting more details coming in of what's happening along the international border as well. It's not just, remember, the line of control which is seeing heavy artillery shelling and ceasefire violations by Pakistan. It's also the international border as well. The latest update which my colleague Tejshri has just centered out is that there is incessant firing from the Pakistani Rangers on the border security force at the Samba international border. Remember, this is not along the line of control, this is along the international border, where technically ceasefire violations shouldn't exist, but ever since Pakistan has decided to de-recognize the Shimla agreement, it has not only ignored the validity of the line of control, which was seen as the de facto border after the Shimla agreement, it has also chosen to violate the sanctity or the presence of the international border as well, which is why we are seeing firing happening along the international border at the Samba sector from Pakistani Rangers at the border security force. And also what we can say is that BSF is retaliating effectively to Pakistani firing. And this happened, keep in mind, that because after the BSF foiled an infiltration bed of terrorists as well. Remember, what's happening in Jammu and Kashmir tonight, ladies and gentlemen, is a multi-pronged offensive, because we are not just seeing drone attacks which we have seen in Jammu, on Udhampur and in Pathankot. We are also seeing ceasefire violations and heavy artillery shelling that's going on. We have also heard reports of a suspected attempted fidain or a suicide attack, and we are also seeing terrorist infiltration bids which have been foiled. Let me go across to my colleague Tejshri, who's getting us details once again from ground zero at great risk to our own life and safety. Tejshri, what is the latest you can tell us about what's happening along the international border in Samba?
Well, yes, as of now, we were reporting from Jammu, and in fact, we just heard sirens here just few minutes back, and not just that, but again, there is a complete blackout. And what we are picking up to the latest is, again, there was firing from the side of Pakistan at the international border in Samba. However, and in fact, it was targeted on the BSF there in Samba at the international border. So that is another attempt by Pakistan, remember. And also what we are getting to know is that the BSF is retaliating, and BSF is appropriately giving it back to Pakistan, and not just but in fact number of times we have seen that the times that Pakistan tried to hit over here either by ceasefire violation or by mortars or by shelling, every time India has given it back to Pakistan, and Pakistan has failed multiple times. And today again in the cowardly attack here in Jammu, from where we are reporting right now, we also reported from near the airport area, where in fact there were 8 to 10 drones that were shot down. Missiles were also intercepted, but still Pakistan now in another attempt has started firing there at the international border in the Samba district. Remember that earlier there were several ceasefire violations also reported in Poonch, in Rajouri, in Uri. There were the shelling continued in Uri and Poonch for quite a long. Tomorrow we'll come to know that what what is the official figure of the injury and how Pakistan is again cowardly targeting the civilians. But yes, picking up what we are picking up to the latest is that this particular again retaliation, unprovoked retaliation from the unprovoked firing from the Pakistan. Again, BSF is responding properly to this. BSF is responding appropriately and giving it back to Pakistan there at Samba, at the international border. This is the latest that we are picking up. And in fact, let me tell you that in Jammu, we are reporting in Jammu, and we also heard the sirens. Now it is the sirens are definitely an indication that there could be some kind of attack over here, or the situation is sensitive and critical over here, because after there was an attack in between 8 to 8:30, and then India attacked Lahore and then gave it back to Pakistan. Lahore, Sialkot, Islamabad and several areas in the Pakistan. But now again it seems like there's a kind of situation that we are witnessing over here. The atmosphere is definitely tensed over here. The entire area is completely blackout, and also in fact the movement of the civilians, and we are also not in fact allowed to move towards the airport, definitely because of the security reasons. We will not move there. But yes, we are giving you each and every from ground zero here in Jammu.
All right, Tejas, stay on with us. My colleague Pradeep is also getting us the latest update from Kotli, where we can also confirm at this point that India is giving it back to Pakistan, because there's been heavy shelling that has been confirmed in Kotli as well. Pradeep, what more can you tell us about what's happening right now in Kotli?
Yes, a very strong befitting response from Indian side. They are targeting areas in Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir, and Kotli is one particular sector where we have seen that a very strong retaliation is going on from Indian side. Yesterday, there was a meeting between the Home Minister, between the Defence Minister and Prime Minister Narendra Modi. This meeting was held just before the cabinet meeting, and during this meeting, Defence Minister discussed about the escalation and situation on the ground, especially along the line of control and international border. That was the time when Prime Minister told Defence Minister that message should be conveyed to the commanders on the ground. This time there should be a punitive action. That means any of the notorious posts from fire is coming and they are trying to target Indian positions or Indian civilians, they should be given back strongly. Punitive action means that posts need to be completely decimated and demolished. And you can see that similar action is being initiated, because earlier from here the Pakistani army personnel, they were trying to target Indian civilians. So now what the Indian army is doing, they are trying to decimate those posts. Because if you look at many of those areas that have been targeted by Pakistan army, those areas are far away from army installation. That clearly indicate that this firing is not accidental firing, but this was a deliberate attempt to inflict casualty of civilians, because Pakistan is a rogue army and they know that they can't fight with the Indian mighty military. So what they are trying to do is they are trying to target the civilians, they are trying to inflict casualty, they are trying to generate fear among them, and they are trying to destabilize the situation in the region. But Indian troops are right now giving back. You can see that artillery fire is being used. This is the only way that Indian can silence Pakistani guns, and Indians very well know that if we are going to hit them hard, only then the guns from the other side can be silenced. Then we can prevent the lives of those civilians. Meanwhile, already some of the civilians have been evacuated to safer places from areas close to line of control. And so, but what is more in fact worrying is that it is not only line of control. They are not keeping their activities confined to line of control. They have started targeting international border also. Short while back, there was an infiltration attempt from Pakistan side in Samba sector, failing to infiltrate and push in terrorists. That infiltration attempt was foiled. And now they are resorting to firing, because this is a ploy of Pakistan that they start providing cover fire so that once again they can push in terrorists into this side of the border. Because their modus operandi is on one side, they want to continue with the external aggression. And the second is that they want to destabilize situation in hinterland by pushing in more and more terrorists. That's what they are trying to do. And India very well understands modus operandi. That's one of the reasons that counter-insurgency grid has been bolstered, it has been strengthened. They are trying to ensure that there is no gap for the terrorists to come out of this side. Right now, overall, the situation continues to remain tense. But yes, India has given back, and given back in a very strong manner. I think one thing that Pakistan deep state will realize, that they are not this time dealing with a sheep state, but they are dealing with the Mazboot Bharat, and Mazboot Bharat is going to hit you hard. And already they have started targeting many of their cities, and the sounds of those explosions can be heard. And definitely this is going to send shivers down the spine of army sitting in Rawalpindi. Meanwhile, there are also reports coming that there is a lot of tension, because there are many generals there against Asim Munir, and Asim Munir is finding it very difficult to keep flock together.
Yes, and we are getting details, of course, as you're telling us, of course, that there's been heavy shelling in Samba, there's been heavy shelling in Muzaffarabad, there's been heavy shelling in Kotli as well. But there's also been it's been a long and quite a apprehensive night of apprehension in Srinagar as well. My colleague Suhail has sent us his ground report from inside the bunker, which is one of those many areas where, under a period of a blackout, citizens of Srinagar had been asked to take refuge from potential drone and even missile strikes. Let's play out this ground report.
भारत की एयर डिफेंस ने जम्मू में आज 8 मिसाइल्स और ड्रोन्स को नाकाम बनाया, जो पाकिस्तान ने जम्मू की तरफ खास तौर पर चलाए थे। इस बीच देर शाम से ही लगातार लाइन ऑफ कंट्रोल के मुख्तलिफ इलाकों में लगातार शेलिंग की जा रही है पाकिस्तानी सेना की ओर से, और पाकिस्तानी सेना की ओर से सिविलियन आबादी को निशाना बनाया जा रहा है। सुरक्षा के लिए हम भी एक अंडरग्राउंड बंकर में पहुंच गए हैं। मेरे सहयोगी शफीक आपको तस्वीरों के माध्यम से दिखाएंगे कि हमारे साथ कुछ और लोग भी यहाँ पे मौजूद है जो इस बंकर में जिन्होंने पनाह ली है। यही बंकर जो है इस तरह की स्थिति में काम आते हैं, खासतौर पर लाइन ऑफ कंट्रोल के जो नजदीकी इलाके हैं उनमें जो इस तरह के बंकर जो है प्रशासन के द्वारा बनाए गए हैं, और इन्हीं बंकर्स में लोग जो है पहुंच जाते हैं अपनी जान बचाने के लिए। लाइन ऑफ कंट्रोल पर खासतौर पर उरी, कुपवारा और टंगडार सेक्टर में भारी गोलाबारी हो रही है पाकिस्तानी सेना की ओर से। भारतीय सेना भी लगातार इस का मुंहतोड़ जवाब है, लेकिन कई इलाकों में जो है नुकसान की खबर मिल रही है। उरी सेक्टर में एक महिला की मौत जो है वो बताई जा रही है, हालांकि जो ऑफिशियल स्टेटमेंट है वो अभी इसमें आना बाकी है, लेकिन कई लोग जो है वो घायल हुए हैं जिनको गवर्नमेंट मेडिकल कॉलेज बारामुल्ला भेज दिया गया है, जहां पर उनका इलाज चल रहा है। भारी गोलाबारी लाइन ऑफ कंट्रोल के उरी और कुपवारा सेक्टर के साथ साथ राजौरी, पुंछ और मेंढर में भी जो है वो हो रही है, और यहाँ पर कुछ लोग भी हमारे साथ बातचीत के लिए मौजूद है। अभी क्या स्थिति है, कितना जो है आपको लग रहा है डर, और किस तरह की जो वायलेशंस है अभी हो रही है?
जी देखिए, मेरा नाम नसीर अहमद है, मैं इधर होटल पाकिस्तान पे काम करता हूँ। देखिए, जो हमें कुछ इतना हमें मिली थी कि यहाँ पे क्या बोलते हैं शेलिंग होने वाली, लेकिन हमें इतना पता नहीं था कि इतनी शेलिंग जबरदस्त। परसों भी जो शेलिंग हुई थी उतना अंदाजा नहीं, डर उतना नहीं लगा। जो आज शेलिंग हुई इसने तो खौफ हिरासत कर दिया, सबको डरा दिए। हमारे कुछ यहाँ पे आगे कुछ हमसाए पे हुई है, कुछ आग भी लगी यहाँ पे। तो अगर थोड़ा हम इधर नीचे नहीं उतरते तो हमारे कुछ आसपास में जो उनके जो गोल शेलिंग के जो छल्ले वाले हैं वो भी हमारे इसमें आकर होटल पे पड़े। तो हमारे साथ जो कुछ ये हम स्टाफ मेरे साथ जो है इधर हम इधर से बैठे हुए हैं, तो अगर हम यहाँ से वहाँ होटल से नहीं उतरते हम में से कोई न कोई जख्मी, सबके सभी जख्मी हो जाते। वहाँ पर बचने की तो कोई बात ही नहीं थी। तो इसी तरह से हम सब डरे हुए हैं। हमारे घर में न कुछ बैंकर से न कुछ एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन ने दिया है, न कुछ दिया है। बस जो बोलने वाला है उसी को दिया है। जो गरीब है, जहाँ पे जो सिविल से मारा जाता है उसी को टारगेट किया जाता है। उनको जो अपनी जगह पे सब बैठे हुए हैं, तो यहाँ पे हमारे तरफ किसी ने देखा तो न कुछ हुआ। तब हम सब के सब डरे हुए, तो इतना हमें इतना अंदाजा नहीं था। आज हम बहुत जबरदस्त डरे हुए हैं। आज हमारे साइड पर गिरे जो गोले, तो अगर हम थोड़ा सा दूर नहीं आते तो हम सब के सब खत्म हो जाते हैं। तो इसी तरह से आप देखना चाहते हैं कि चारों तरफ से गोलाबारी जो वो चल रही है, अभी भी चल रही है। तो हम खुद डरे हुए हैं, एक दूसरे से बात भी नहीं कर पाते हैं।
तो ये जो गोलाबारी है लगातार चारों ओर से इस जगह पर हो रही है, सिविलियन एरियाज टारगेट हो रहे हैं। ठीक इस बैंकर के सामने भी जो है आग लगी है, जिसको अभी हम दिखा नहीं पाएंगे क्योंकि सुरक्षा के कारण, और लगातार भयंकर तरीके से जो गोलाबारी है उससे लोग प्रभावित हुए हैं। कई लोग अपने घरों को छोड़कर यहां से निकल गए हैं और हम भी बड़ी मुश्किल से यहां पर पहुंच गए अपनी जान को सुरक्षित करने के लिए। इससे पहले हम हॉस्पिटल के अंदर गए थे, वहां पर जो जख्मी हैं उनको लाया जा रहा था। वहां पर भी उस हॉस्पिटल को भी टारगेट करने की कोशिश की गई थी और वहां पे भी हालात जो है वो काफी ज्यादा कशीदा थे। वहां से यहां पहुंचने में करीब 4 घंटे हमें लगे और इस तरीके से हम यहां पर जो अंडरग्राउंड बंकर है हम यहां पर पहुंच गए हैं और ये सभी लोग यहां पर पहुंच गए हैं। इसके साथ ही जो बाकी इलाके हैं वहां पे भी इस तरह के जो अंडरग्राउंड बंकर और इन्हीं बंकर्स में जो है लोग जाते हैं और अपने आप को सुरक्षित करते हैं।
PK Mishra, as a former additional DG of the BSF, you can understand the challenge which the BSF is facing tonight along the international border as well, especially as we got your reports of how they're dealing with incessant shelling along the international border in Samba. It's very important for people to understand the challenge which our forces are facing tonight, because they're dealing not just with the prospect of drones and projectiles coming in across the border through the air. They're dealing with incessant and unprovoked and unprecedented levels of artillery firing as well. They're dealing with the constant threat of a renewed infiltration bid, possible reactivation of all the existing sleeper cells within this Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, as well as with the threat of fidayeen threats. It is a massive challenge with the security forces, whether it be the army or the BSF, have to deal with tonight in Jammu and Kashmir.
Yes, I can well tell you. In fact, when Samba was discussed, I was thinking to just come and discuss also. But anyway, he have asked. I just spoke to Samba. I just spoke to few officers in Samba and took the position. In fact, the position now, heavy shelling is going on from both the sides. In fact, we have already reinforced our border outpost, starting from Kathua, from Pathankot, up to Jammu border and Akhnoor border also. That is Arespura, Samba and Arnia, Kathua, then Jammu and Akhnoor. These all border are totally, they were reinforced. We are having extra battalions there. We have already taken heavy weapons there, because we know their post from where the firing is coming, that will be about 3 to 4 kilometers. Sialkot. Of course, we have made 3-4 big pillars where we can observe in up to Sialkot also. So in fact, we are having heavy weapons, and a lot of bunkers have been made. And from last 2 days, we have already asked all the civilians from the nearby village to shift and to leave the border areas. And those who are present there, they are already there in the bunkers. And yesterday night, we had firing by mortars and MMGs from Pakistan side. Now today we were fired at by Pakistan Rangers and Pakistan Army from Sialkot by RT cells, and we have replied them very badly. Whatever we got, 10 times of that we have fired, and the firing is still going on now. I spoke to my boys. Their morale is very high. Nobody is injured. They are all safe in bunkers, and our weapons are ready, ammunitions are enough, and we can keep on fighting with them for 1 month if the war continues. In fact, the heavy firing comes from Pakistan in Sialkot side. That shows that they are giving covering fire for the militants to penetrate, and that we know it pretty well, which are the gaps where the militants can penetrate, and that is the area in Arnia and Arespura, Samba, Kathua. They made few tunnels also, where from the militants they crossed with weapons from Pakistan from Sialkot side. So we have got
okay. Stay on with us, Mr. Mishra, because we are getting more details coming in. It's not just Muzaffarabad, it's not just Kotli. It's now in Muri as well, where we have got access to information about India pounding enemy positions. There's heavy counter shelling that's going on with India and Muri. In fact, let's listen in to. There has to be one important aspect in this all-out offensive. Many people are already calling it war that's happened between India and Pakistan for the last 3 days. We have seen a plethora of videos coming in from Pakistan where Pakistan civilians are openly admitting being absolutely caught unawares and being absolutely apprehensive of the strikes that are happening been carried out by India with such precision and with such deadly precision. Yet it stands in complete contrast to the messaging and the videos that have come in from the Indian side, where the Josh remains high, not just among the forces but also among civilians. This is a war, Pradeep, which we have to win, and we are winning collectively as a country. Even when the first visuals came in, of which we are showing right now, of drones being intercepted in Jammu, there was no mass scale panic, there was no confusion, there was no apprehension in the streets. There was this sense of confidence that India's defense forces will protect its citizens, and its citizens did their part of not panicking, unlike what we have seen so far in the visuals coming in and the videos coming in from Pakistan.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Very important point you made, because reason is that there is a complete synergy between Jawan and Awam. When there is a synergy between Jawan and Awam, and I don't think anybody can defeat that country. That's one of the reasons that the morale here is quite high. The morale of the troops is very high, and the people also have full faith in our security forces. The men in olive, they know that they are going to defend each and every inch of the country. Even for that, they have to give their life also, because they are ready to act like wall on the border, ready to take bullets on their body, because this is an unwritten commitment of Indian soldier with the countrymen and the country, that at any cost they are going to see tricolor fluttering. I often say one thing: if you see the tricolor fluttering, it is not because of the blowing wind, it is because of the last breath of the soldiers standing there on the ground. And today also people of the country have full faith in the soldiers, and that's one of the reasons you must have seen that they are standing firmly with the soldiers. But that is not the case in Pakistan. Reason being, if you talk about the Pakistan army, if we talk about the Pakistani general, because see, it's a divided house. Reason being that the Pakistani generals had never ever mingled with the population. There is often, we have heard the sloganeering, people coming out on the street, they say, "Ye jo dahshat gardi hai, iske piche Pakistani fauj ki vardi hai." So people are quite angry. If we talk about Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, if we talk about Balochistan, if we talk about Pakistan occupied Jammu and Kashmir, if we talk about Sindh area, reason being that 80% of the army in Pakistan is Punjabis, and the Punjabis, they are normally occupying the good position. They are not treating other provinces well, and they are being treated like second-class citizens. That's one of the reasons you must have seen the uprising in Balochistan area. Today only there was an IED attack carried out by the Baloch Liberation Army, in which 12 army personnel of Pakistan lost their life while they were going for operation. And reason being that there are several cases of disappearance, there are several cases of persecution, their people are being targeted, women are being raped. So they have lost complete respect, they have lost their credibility. And one of the reasons that people are right now afraid, they feel that who is going to save them, because there is no Pakistani army. For days together, Pakistani General Asim Munir was nowhere visible. But now we have seen that one of his videos appeared where he is speaking more like a Maulana than like any general we're talking to, because he thinks that last resort to keep the flock together is to use religion. That is something what General Zia did, and that is what actually Muhammad Ali Jinnah did, because he realized that it is very difficult to keep all provinces together, because initially he also wanted to have a secular state. Finally, he had to induct that element of Islam, because he thought that Islam will act as a gel to keep all the provinces together. And so right now this is the biggest ever dilemma right now before the army general also, how to keep flock together, because there are generals who are with him. There are some of the generals who are more close to PTI. They feel more close to Imran Khan, because they feel today Imran Khan is behind bar. It is because of Asim Munir. And if Shahbaz Sharif is there on chair, it is because of Asim Munir, because there is a sham democracy. This man is not being elected by the people, but selected by the general. And then there are some generals who are with the radical Islamist element. So it's very difficult to keep flock together in such a situation. You can very well understand what the people must be thinking. They're apprehensive, because they were not at all prepared for any kind of war. Absolutely. At this stage. And everybody know that what really happened in Pahalgam, why Asim Munir did it, because he did something for the country, because he did it for the chair. And indeed, when here the soldier is fighting, he is fighting for the country, because the Indian army is the most apolitical army. That's what one has to understand. That's one of the reasons you will find that Josh, you will find that energy, you will find that everybody is standing together, because you rightly said, at the end of the day, we have to win war. This is not the time to look for any holes. This is the time that we have to be together.
And once again, Pradeep, just to underline the point which you have been making, let's listen in to this sentiment of panic and fear that's coming in from Muri. Let's play out that video once again. Try and understand this epic misadventure by Pakistan. Here are the areas that came in from attack from Pakistan in Jammu and Kashmir, Punjab and Rajasthan. Near Jammu University, there were two Pakistani drones that were shot down. Then there was, remember, Jammu was the first city at around 8:30 today to report a drone attack. Then in Jammu and Kashmir, in nearby Udhampur, again Pakistani drones were intercepted and they were automatically disposed without creating any damage as well. The same happened in Akhnoor as well. There was a drone attack. In Jammu as well, there was a drone attack. And in Pathankot also there was a drone attack. And they were all successfully repelled. Now, this was just in Jammu and Kashmir. But more importantly, today, these drone attacks didn't just happen in Jammu and Kashmir or Punjab as well. In Rajasthan, Barmer reported a drone attack which was successfully repelled. Falodi in Rajasthan reported a drone attack which was successfully repelled. And more crucially, Jaisalmer, a key city in the western frontier, saw intense shelling, intense artillery shelling, intense drone attacks, but it was able to intercept and repel all those Pakistani drones that came in. Sri Ganganagar, again from Rajasthan, saw a red alert being issued where everyone was asked to stay indoors. Now that is Rajasthan. Let's now shift to focus to what happened in Pathankot, in Punjab. Punjab had Pathankot, which is of course a very key air base that has been attacked once before in the past. A drone attack there was foiled. Then we went to Kutch as well. Gujarat also saw action where 3 Pakistani drones tried to enter and were shot down. Chandigarh also, a city which was reportedly being targeted by Pakistan yesterday night as well, was also on the alert today, which is where air raid sirens was sounded. Now this is all that happened through the evening. This is a part of Pakistan's Epic Thursday misadventure, and as a result, India is now responding in kind, and we have reports coming in of Indian counteraction in Lahore and other cities of Pakistan as well. Colonel Anil Bhatt, you were listening to what these my colleagues were saying and our other panelists were saying as well. The point is, where does this end for Pakistan? As Buzin Wangma was saying, Pakistan's priority is always to save face and show and to make a point or at least bleed India, regardless of the cost to its own civilians, regardless to the cost to its own war machinery. It is in many ways a living embodiment of a Fidain or a suicide mission. In a situation like that, till what point do we expect Pakistan to finally be bullied into submission and not insist on continuously upping the ante when it comes to climbing the escalation ladder? All right, Colonel Bhatt, if you can hear me, I think not. And we'll Colonel Bhatt, can you hear me, sir? I think you may be muted, Colonel Bhatt.
No.
Yes, we can hear you. Colonel Bhatt, I'll repeat my question. Given that Pakistan has always been fixated over this egotistical sense of pride and a desire to hurt India more than safeguard its own citizens and safeguard its own resources, at what point can we expect Pakistan to finally accept the reality that it is no match to India and climb down the escalation matrix?
See, I wonder how much, there was a lot of talk about Pakistan being very short on fuel, on ammunition. I think we should maybe carry on, and it's brainless for them to be just absolutely unabatedly carrying on in wherever they are in these places, small arms fire and artillery. I don't know what they're achieving, because they're getting in at least 1.5 times what they're giving, if not more. If not more, and that's if not more, because we are being very, we just being trying to keep their heads down. Now, with the Indian Navy having got deployed in the Arabian Sea with an aircraft carrier and 26 ships, I think it should be deja vu 1971, where we blockade the entire, their entire seafront and make sure that no ship leaves their ports and no ship enters their ports. That is probably one way to absolutely stop whatever is going on. We've stopped the river water going there, but I wonder how effective that can be, because we don't have dams, as you know, and there's only a certain amount of stopping of the flow by way of operating the sluice gates. But the Indian Navy doing 1971 again, that should teach them a lesson, because we can now completely ensure that they get nothing. They can't leave, no ship can leave, no ship can enter.
Pradeep, indeed, Colonel, but well put. Pradeep, the question that probably is on everyone's minds, and that probably the answer to which holds the key to the answers to when, if ever, we reach a point of de-escalation. Where is Asim Munir, and is he really in charge of the Pakistan Army? Forget the establishment of Pakistan, because conflicting reports have come in of him facing a potential coup, of him already being deposed, of him fleeing outside Pakistan as well. It's evident that General Munir, and I use the word general, I think pretty ironically, because he's not behaved like a leader of the disciplined force. It seems that General Munir really has started a war which his countrymen are paying with their blood.
Yes, you're absolutely right. See, if we talk about, let me first talk about the Pakistan Army. There is a saying that every country has got the army, but here is an army that has got a country. And now here is an army general, General Asim Munir. And someone who is not fighting for the country, he's fighting for the chair because he wants to stay relevant. And that's one of the reasons that he has today brought Pakistan on the brink of war. I'll not say brink of war, almost the war has started, because it's because of Asim Munir. Asim Munir thought the only way to keep flock together and to ensure that he continues to remain general was to start a war kind of a scenario with India, because he was the one who had been architect of Pahalgam massacre, because it was he who had given the green signal, and finally it was at his behest that those Pak proxies were able to carry out this massacre in which 26 people lost their lives. Those unarmed civilians were tourists who had come there for the vacation and who were only like help to the people of Kashmir Valley, because they are the one who really fill the coffers of the people, and finally they can continue with their livelihood. And the third thing is that important is that because, you know, when the general should have been normally there on the ground, because throughout the ever since there had been Pahalgam massacre, we have seen the general was totally missing from the scene. He was not there on the ground with the soldier, like we saw the General Upinder Trivedi. He visited Kashmir Valley, he interacted with the commanders there, then he went to the Bison Valley where the massacre has taken place. Finally he came, there was several meetings between him and the Prime Minister. He was seen there on ground with the soldiers, he was seen there on ground with the commanders, he was trying to brief the Prime Minister also, and then they were discussing about how they have to carry out attack to target those terror dens. So, but in case of Pakistan, he had totally gone underground. The people were asking questions. In fact, people started asking questions. Where is Shahbaz Sharif? One of the journalists asked question to the Deputy Prime Minister. Where is the Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif? In such a scenario, you don't know who is running the country. Is Shahbaz Sharif? No, because Shahbaz Sharif is again a puppet Prime Minister. He is being selected by the army. Is General Asim Munir? No, because he too is not enjoying the confidence of his own colleagues, because they don't support him the way they should have supported a general. Then who is running the country? Is the deep state? Definitely deep state has a role to play, other than spoiling the country and making country to reach this position. It is because of the deep state, because deep state always tried to create those terror assets, and terror assets they didn't realize they became Frankenstein monster for them, and Frankenstein monster is today creating trouble for Pakistan. When they say that we are victims, I think they are to be blamed. There is a saying, if you raise the dust, you can't complain that you can't see, because they have raised the dust and now they can't complain, they can't see. But I think I'm just reminded of the lines, because you earlier asked the question why there is so much josh and why we all are fighting for the victory. There is Atal Bihari Vajpayee had once said ये भारत जो है जमीन का टुकड़ा नहीं है, ये जीता जाता राजपुरुष है। तो ये चंदन की भूमि है, ये अभिनंदन की भूमि है। इसके कंकर कंकर में शंकर है, इसके बिंदु बिंदु में गंगा जल है। कब जब मैं मरूंगा और मेरी अस्थियां भाई जाएंगी और उसके साथ कोई कान लगा के जब सुनेगा तो एक ही आवाज आएगी, भारत माता की जय। So that is what actually is the spirit.
Absolutely.
That is what actually is keeping each and every Indian united. It is because of that spirit, it is because of that jazba junoon that everybody is ready to, even if they have to sacrifice their life, they will not mind. But they have to win this war. Because by winning this war, they will be teaching Pakistan a lesson for once for all, that you can't plead India 1,000 cut. And already Prime Minister, when he asserted, mitti mein mila dunga, he was able to send a message loud and clear to these Pakistanis, that Indian blood is not that cheap. And this time you will be made to pay for the sins that you have committed in Pahalgam. And you can see that I still remember what the words of that one of the lady whose husband was killed in front of her eyes. She said that while were killing my husband, I said, why you are leaving me? You should kill me. The terrorist told her that you should go and tell what really happened to you to Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And you must have seen the messaging that two ladies, officers, one from Air Force and one from Army, they were briefing the country to tell the world what really has happened to those Pakistani terror dens who were spilling blood of Indians on Kashmiri soil. So that's what actually had been the messaging. I think that is India. The existence, coexistence of different faith, irrespective of caste, creed, color, religion, everybody is standing together.
Well said, Pradeep. Now, of course, for our viewers who are with us this night, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for tuning in to Times Now. It is a night where few, if anyone, in the subcontinent is sleeping at this point. It's